South Africans being angry about the lack of opportunities and the majority of South Africans being angry is going to show in all these coming deaths of our aging political stalwarts, business stalwarts, because as they're passing away, more and more people are getting more vocal about their objection to the lifestyles these people live, knowing that people are suffering and they're not doing enough to intervene, even though they know that they can, or they know how to intervene in those situations. So the reaction that you're getting, the fact that it's mixed, like I said, that's the judgment of your character. You know what I mean? I get the same thing. You get the same thing. When you walk out into the streets, you'll meet people who will greet you, say hi to you, you know. And when you leave this earth, you know, because you're not here physically to hear it, the people that want to say negative stuff to you that couldn't say it maybe when they saw you or whatever, they were starstruck, they are now going to come out and say it, and we're going to have to start coming to terms with this. And how do we change that narrative within our own stories? I've said before, it's like, you know, heaven for me is how I'm remembered after I'm gone. You know, if people hold my name up high after I'm gone, I feel that that is heaven for me. If people talk down on my name after I'm gone, for me, that is hell. You know, and you decide in the time that you're alive what your choice is, whether you're going to heaven or you're going to hell, you know. And the more voices that are able to speak about the good work that you've done in your community, that you volunteered your time for, the better. Because all those voices that talk about what you did for your bosses, those will never be able to sanitize your legacy when the judgment day comes in the court of public opinion.
Did hear, sorry, before you continue, Mr. Julius Malema at the EFF presser this past week saying, even after his presidency, because the matter can still be raised in parliament and it can still be followed after his presidency. Your take?
And that's exactly the stance that I wanted the EFF to be taking. You know, I've got a lot of criticism for some of my takes about the EFF, but it seems like the what is it called? Constructive criticism has been heard. You know, I heard about some of the reflections that they've done about their previous election outcomes. I was actually reading about a lot of that in today's City Press. Yeah. And a lot of the things that I was saying are some of the prominent things that, you know, they highlighted as reforms that they'd want to bring to the organization. Phala is a big deal for the EFF, right? But, you know, for me, I've got this sneaky suspicion, man, after observing and seeing everything. And I mean, we'll get into this when we also talk about the Youth League March later, or we can even talk about that right now since we're into politics right now. Yeah. All of it together. Like putting all of these things together for me, I mean, the JSC rulings, denying Judge Hlophe of, you know, sitting in on the first hearings, him withdrawing himself, the MK party then saying they're going to submit someone else so that the process can continue, but under protest. While they're challenging it, there's another court action for Part B of their application. They've now introduced their constitution as well. They've clarified the dual membership rules. They've given us code of conduct that we can actually understand where their policy direction is going, and spoken even more elaborately about their stance on having conferences and how democracy can be co-opted and within their conferences. Yeah, I think for me, those are good signs. There's one criticism that I do have, though, that I feel that the EFF has taken a better stance on that, in that they're combining the student command and the youth command together. Because I've always felt like having this student command is a little bit of an elitist thing, because it's based in the TVET colleges, in the universities, you know, the people that are out there in those higher institutions.
They're combining it now. They're saying it's no longer going to be called the student command. It's going to be called the youth.
Yeah, the EFF is doing that. Yeah, but the MK is going to what the EFF had done, which is having a separate wing for its justice youth, a separate wing for its students as well, which is something I disagree with. I like the way the EFF is modifying their policy
now. Yeah, yes, include just all.
But I don't like what the MK is doing with that, because of my principle that, you know, as young people, we cannot be classing ourselves based on our education levels. We're all growing, we're all developing, and we might be young people now, but in 20 years of life experience, we might be at the same age, but we'll have similar life experience that is almost commensurate with different skills if we chose different fields at that age. You know what I mean? Like a 50-year-old person at a certain point in time, despite what they did in their youth, should have a certain level of responsibility, a certain level of maturity, and certain basic knowledge that is common sense for a 50-year-old at that stage, despite what it is that they've done in life. So the way in which they're modeling it, the student command, these things will break down. The student command will then say, oh, yes, but us commercial students, us engineering students, we want higher positions. The engineering students now want higher position. The accounting, the actuaries now want higher position. You break it down like that. What about also political education for the kids that are in high school, for the kids that are not in school, the young people that are working after they do from 3, you know what I mean, standard 8, grade 10, you know what I mean? What about them? So we need to think about how we're going to politically conscientize our youth, because that is what was missed out on in the 1994 advent of democracy. And that is what has put us in the situation where 30 years later, young people and older people don't know what participatory role they play within their own democracy, because that wasn't what we were told about. We were told that, they're these struggle stalwarts, they know everything, they are the oracles, and they will take care of each and every single one of us, forever and ever. And we didn't think to ourselves, actually, we need to know what these people are doing. So when Tito Mboweni is signing policies very early in the game and making Nelson Mandela change policies at the World Economic Forum, we actually understand what those compromises are. Because back then, when they were going to the World Economic Forum, we'd hear about on the news, we'd hear about the policy announcements, the changing of the stance, but we didn't understand what they were talking about. We've never participated in the economy as the majority of South Africans, especially Black South Africans, and that made us very naive walking into this current dispensation, which has lasted for the past 30 years. And as it sees itself losing more and more credibility, people should not make that as an excuse to find other people to become the messiahs and save them. People should actually look at how they can save themselves, how they can play a greater participatory role, which is even like from my own personal perspective. I've also said, I'm going to play a role, whatever it is, whether I have to be a ward counselor or whether I have to do something within my own community, my own neighborhood, to show that I'm playing a role. I need to do that so that I can also encourage other young kids to do the same. The same way we were inspired by seeing the EFF coming into politics. You know what I mean? We were inspired to be politically conscientized. And now that they're spreading their youth command across all youth, I'm hoping that more of that work of conscientizing the youth will continue. I'm hoping that the MK can do a lot more of that work and help also align other progressive forces as they consolidate their party. And I'm disappointed that the ANC Youth League is not marching to Hyde Park, to Cyril's house. Cyril just did a whole entire meeting with Business Leadership South Africa, all the top companies. We're talking about business leadership just 2 episodes ago. Why are they marching to the JSE? Because at the JSE offices, none of the owners of the companies that are listed there are working at those JSE offices. Those are stockbrokers, traders, cleaners, people who work in IT. Like, those people don't have any influence on what those companies that are listed are there doing. But I'll tell you, if you guys go outside Cyril Ramaphosa's house in Hyde Park, he can get the top 40 JSE companies on a Zoom call right now and say, the youth are outside my house. There's 20,000 of them. And he's the ANC president. And the Youth League has got a direct line. Colin Malachi has got a direct line. You had him on this platform and he's saying a whole lot of radical things. But I mean, like, if you got a direct line to the president, right? Call the president. Get your contract cell phone as Colin Malachi and let each and every single one of those 20,000 people that you've got marching there pass the phone to the president and speak to the president directly, the same way he spoke to people when he went and visited spaza shops, the same way he spoke to people when he spoke about feces going into the streets in Kailicha, the same way he spoke to that lady and talk about giving her a job opportunity, which he could do with just a phone call without having a whole youth empowerment service or youth employment service program put together. He's got those friends Those are people that are in his call list. He can open up a WhatsApp group right now and say, each and every single one of you on the JSC Top 40, I want each of you to pledge 10,000 jobs for young people, each of you companies, because that's how much money you're making. You can at least give 10,000 jobs each.